Hello everybody, welcome to Vigilant Citizen. My name is Josh. Thanks for joining today. It's a lovely day out here. I am wiped, been a long week. Stayed up late, playing some games with some friends. It was really good. Games are important. Make sure you're playing them. So, we've been talking a lot lately about perception, reality, the fall of mankind, or more to the point, has civilization peaked? Are we on the downslope? I kind of wanted to continue that conversation today because I think it's an interesting one, and it seems to be resonating with more people out there. Seems like I've gotten some more subscribers after the last couple episodes. Thanks for subscribing if you have. Again, that's not what this channel is about. I'm not here for the numbers. I have a day job. I don't need to get 1 million subscribers or anything, but I think the more people who are interested in what I have to say, the better off. Well, for me, because the better I'm doing and the more, I don't know, I maybe the more I'm helping people out there. So I'm glad that some people have found it interesting and interesting enough to subscribe and that they want to listen. So if you want to ever join in the conversation, comments, I also have an email address in the comments or in the description that you can send emails to, and I love to hear from people. As you can see, I have a different angle today. I'm trying something out. I've got a new tripod. It's a large one. I have it sitting on the table right now. And I also have a new recorder, a new microphone. And I'm having some trouble with getting it to sync, so I'm still using this one straight into the phone for the time being. But I am trying this one, and if it works and doesn't desync, it seems to work better with shorter videos. I know there's a variable frame rate that the phone is using, and it makes it nearly impossible to sync up in post-edit. And most of these phones don't seem to have an opportunity or an option to... It doesn't have an option to change it to a constant frame rate, and so it just makes it nigh impossible, and I don't know what I'm going to do about that yet, short of spending thousands of dollars on great video recording equipment. I mean, do I really need that? I don't know. So, not to just take a video of me talking to you. So, we'll see how this goes. Anyway, the topic at hand, talking about civilization peaking and where have things gone wrong. I kind of wanted to explore it from that perspective today, and to that end I wanted to bring out Michael Crichton's The Lost World, which was published in 1995. It has nothing to, or the movie has pretty much nothing to do with this novel. It shares maybe 3 or 4 scenes, and the novel in this case is much better than the movie, which was just kind of a mess. But hey, it was better than the most recent Jurassic World, so there is that. I just realized that I removed my bookmark for the page, but I think I remember it. Yes, there it is. Page 339. Good thing I stored it in the old memory banks here. So there's something that Ian Malcolm says towards the end of this book, as you can see, that I found quite interesting, and this has stuck with me since the first time I read this book, which was maybe, I don't know, 2000, 2001, something like that. So I'm going to read it, and then we'll kind of digest it a little bit and dive into it. So he starts by saying, although personally I think cyberspace means the end of our species. Obviously, when he talks about cyberspace, he's talking about the internet. Because it means the end of innovation. This idea that the whole world is wired together is mass death. Every biologist knows that small groups in isolation evolve fastest. You put 1,000 birds on an ocean island and they'll evolve very fast. You put 10,000 on a big continent and their evolution slows down. Now for our own species, evolution occurs mostly through our behavior. We innovate new behavior to adapt, and everybody on Earth knows that innovation only occurs in small groups. Put 3 people on a committee and they may get something done. 10 people and it gets harder. 30 people and nothing happens. 30 million, it becomes impossible. That's the effect of mass media. It keeps anything from happening. Mass media swamps diversity. It makes every place the same. Bangkok or Tokyo or London. There's a McDonald's on one corner, a Benetton on another, a Gap across the street. Regional differences vanish. All differences vanish. In a mass media world, there's less of everything except the top 10 books, records, movies, ideas. People worry about losing species diversity in the rainforest, but what about intellectual diversity, our most necessary resource? That's disappearing faster than trees. But we haven't figured that out. So now we're planning to put 5 billion people together in cyberspace. 5 billion people in 1995. And it'll freeze the entire species. Everything will stop dead in its tracks. Everyone will think the same thing at the same time. Global uniformity. And then he goes on about, I think he's getting injected with morphine because he suffered an injury. Oh, that hurts. Are you done? And I think he's talking to Sarah Harding, who is a completely different character in this book than she was in the movie. Anyway, so I think there's some interesting ideas and concepts here. One of the things that he seems to be talking about is a concept in business known as bike shedding. When he talks about when you put 3 people on a committee and they may get something done, but then 30 people, nothing happens, 30 million, it's impossible. There's this concept called bike shedding, in which, as the story goes, or the analogy goes, you can put 10 nuclear physicists together to try to come up with the safety protocols for a nuclear power plant, and they'll approve it within 5 minutes with barely any discussion. But then you start talking about the bike shed next to the plant that they all use when they're bringing their bikes in, and that can go on for 2 hours. And the reason being is that not everybody may know something about safety protocol for a nuclear power plant, but everybody knows something about bike sheds, how big they should be, what kind of bikes they should hold, what color it should be painted, all that kind of stuff. So everybody has to jump in and make their opinion heard, and then before you know it, you're 2 hours into arguing about what the bike shed should look like, its dimensions, and that kind of thing. So that's an interesting concept here, and what he's talking about is that when we've got the internet now, we're expanding that. And I think he's probably right to some extent in that. He's probably wrong to some extent. And Michael Crichton, I think, came out and said that what Malcolm says here wasn't necessarily his idea or the way he saw it, but it was just an idea, and he espoused it through this character. Which I think that's an interesting thing about fiction, is that an author can explore multiple ideas through different characters and talk about different things. So he's talking about not being able to do much of anything when you're trying to decide and move something forward, when you've got something like mass media. And then he talks about regional differences vanish, and he says something about top 10. There's less of everything except the top 10 books, records, movies, ideas. And I love that what he's pointing out there, because I've seen that nobody cares about local politics or local things or local. Can you name your top 10 local bands or your city council members? Can you name the local sports teams, even if it's high school or whatever? And instead of that, no, but you can probably name, if you're into sports, you can probably name 10 NFL teams. Boys, stop. Go lay down. The wife might be home with groceries, of course. Which means I'll have to wrap this up and go help her. Boys, stop. Okay, where was I? Had to stop it there for a second. We were talking about the top 10 books, records, movies, ideas. Yes. You probably don't know local sports teams, local authors, local events that are happening that might be interesting. You might, right? I'm not saying everybody. But it's much harder to find that information than it is to find what are the names of all the Kardashians, right? You can do a quick internet search and find that. So if you live somewhere in Minnesota, you know the same top 10 books as somebody who lives in North Carolina. And it just, I don't know, it's just too bad. We're reducing what makes places interesting. So people who all want to travel, it's like, why do you want to travel? All these places are becoming the same now. Especially, it seems to be divided into regions globally now. We've got the West, we've got Southeast Asia, we've got, Russia, you've got Africa. And are they all really any different? I don't know. Maybe that goes to show my own ignorance about different places, but whatever. And then he talks about global uniformity, and I think that played out a lot in the last 2 years. We saw every country adapt the same ideas and strategies for dealing with a virus that had a 99.9 or 99.7% survival rate, and they all adopted the same thing, and none of it worked. None of it really helped anything. It blew through the population everywhere anyway, and so they just all followed the same sort of marching orders and didn't try anything different and didn't really listen to the data or anything. And so I think Crichton, specifically Ian Malcolm, is onto something here. So, and then I see things like, I see trends that come up on TikTok and just this mass conformity of people all doing sort of the same thing. I think when Jeremy and I were talking, I mentioned the Ice Bucket Challenge and all these kind of things. I've seen some really dirty stuff that's come out of, what's it called, TikTok? I've seen some really dirty stuff come out of there lately, and it seems to be some growing fashion trends that are really sort of disgusting. And that stuff used to be hidden, I don't know, in the dark recesses of society. Now the internet has brought it all out. And I think about what schools are doing to kids these days and what they're trying to convince them that they are. They're not really education centers, they're indoctrination centers. And instead of teaching them facts about the world or about reality, they're teaching them to think differently about how they view their own selves, their self-image, and who they are. I saw a video earlier today of a young man who was interviewing, I think it was people in New York City, asking them very simple questions. How many stars are in the United States flag? What is 3 times 3 times 3? Who is the current president and vice president? And who was the president before that, or something like that? And the answers these people get, how many dimes is in a dollar? If you're going 60 miles per hour and you travel for an hour, how far have you gone? And they just couldn't answer any of these questions. Now, obviously, they're probably picking and choosing the most ignorant of people who are out there in Times Square. But I think it's just sad to see, and when I see that, I think that these people are all watching things on the internet that have convinced them about what's important, as opposed to things that really are important, and so they know nothing about history. They couldn't even say who the two factions in the Civil War were. Somebody said, what did somebody say? It was Germany and the Nazis in the Civil War. Those were the two. So these are the same people who want to tear down racist statues. They can't even describe who were the combatants, or the what's the word I'm looking for? Aggressors, instigators. No, that's not it. It'll come to me later. But they can't even say who were the two combatants in the Civil War, and then they want to, take down racist statues, but they don't even know what they're talking about. They don't even know what any of it means, and the only thing I can think of is that the internet has really, it's so ironic. We've gotten the combined, amassed wealth of knowledge, the sum of human knowledge at our fingertips, and we actively choose to ignore it, to become, or to use it to find out the 5 Kardashians' names, or 6, or whatever. There was a girl who did that. That's why I keep bringing up the Kardashians, because this young man asked some of these questions and then asked her, can you name all the Kardashian sisters? And she just went through them, and it's I don't know, it's a little disheartening, and I think it really speaks to the decline of our civilization and our society. Is that which number was it? Number 5, that nobody has interest in things of importance anymore. People are more interested in what colors they have on their flag, and whatever the thing of the day is that you should be angry about. That's what they're more concerned about. I don't know, it's really too bad. So was Michael Crichton sort of a prophet through Ian Malcolm in what he was saying here? I don't know, but it does seem like intellectual diversity is dropping, and that plays into our civilization declining again. So is the internet and cyberspace the death of innovation and intellectual diversity? I don't know. I think there's an argument to be made there, and I think there's a pretty strong one. So I don't know. Let me know what you think. And if you haven't read these books, I was pouring through it. I was trying to find the quote, and I think I want to reread Jurassic Park and The Lost World. I haven't read them in a while. I haven't read any Crichton in a while. He's my favorite author. Sphere is my favorite novel. I think I've shown that on here before, but maybe I'll read some of these again. I haven't been reading much lately. I read, what was it? Atlas Shrugged, followed by The Count of Monte Cristo. And that's the most fiction I've read in a while, but it kind of burned me out on reading because they were really good, but man, were they long, and they were dense, and they were difficult but fulfilling reads. And so I haven't been reading as much. So maybe I should get back into it and just pick up some more fiction since it's a little bit lighter. But what I love about Michael Crichton is that you learn a lot as you're reading. He goes into scientific discussions and dives into how it interplays with the story that he's writing. So if you haven't read any of his works, I highly recommend them. Prey is great too. Prey is really good. His earlier ones are more difficult for me to get into, but I think the man was a slight visionary. We'll see if what he has to say, or what Ian Malcolm specifically has to say about the internet and cyberspace, will come true. If you have any thoughts or comments or questions, comments below, or send me an email. As always, thanks for being here with me today. Thanks for joining me and enjoying this very nice day. It's getting cooler now, might rain. And as always, stay vigilant out there, and I will see you next time.